please stop repeating the story of your trauma. For some of us, we don't know who we would be without the story of our trauma. But what I don't think we realize is that the more we repeat it, the more we solidify it in ourselves, in our psyche, in our mind, thus recreating those feelings and experiences over and over again and burrowing it deeper and deeper into our identity. When you analyze your life, there are a lot of things that have happened, good, bad, neutral. But there is something about the human mind that tends to want to just bombard you with the bad, which is why you have to stand guard at the gates of your mind. What would happen if you repeated the good things that happen to you over and over again with the same velocity and ferocity that you do the bad things? It would create a different existence, I think. Better yet, how about don't identify with any of it? How about you observe it instead of swimming in it? I really want you to try it. Because if, according to science, you get a new body, full body, every 7 years total, and your cells are constantly turning over, that means that your body is turning over, your mind, well, not the mind, but the brain is turning over, all the tangible stuff gets refined and overhauled on a regular basis. So why are we still repeating the same old story every single day of what happened to us? I want you to try an exercise. You could do it right now. This is a brand new moment. Say with me, this is a brand new moment. And I get to choose what happens in this moment. I have a choice. There's no past attached to that. There's no trauma attached to that. The reason too that we don't necessarily want to even cling to the good is because the good is transient as well. So for example, I had the time of my life with some of my family members a few years ago, and even though the circumstance was tragic, I had the time of my life with them, and it was such a beautiful moment. And I remember when I came back home, I kept replaying it, and it really kept me buoyant for a long time. And then one of those people, I heard them with my own ears talking wildly about me. And this was somebody that I never expected it from, but perhaps that was my lack of judgment. Because when I think about their character, I should have expected all of that. But you know how we get egotistical. Oh, they never say that about me. They never say nothing bad about me. But anyway, it doesn't even matter, because when I heard them speaking unfavorably about me in my absence, it really stained that really nice experience I had with them. All of a sudden, I remember it with as much fondness as I did before. Just to show the nature of attachment, right? That shows the nature of attachment. So, to experience the good is wonderful. To experience the bad, it can feel terrible, but there's a lot of value in it. There's pattern recognition in there. There's analysis to look at the incoming signs of disrespect, if there were any, look at who the person is outside of you. You can analyze a really bad situation and get good value on how to move forward in life. Whether or not you choose to take the person with you, that's up to you. But you shouldn't attach and identify yourself with that bad experience, because you're burying a whole swath of really warm experiences as well. And so if you're going to repeat anything, why not remember those experiences? Why not run those experiences to feed you? And then you'll get to a point where you realize that it's all just experience and energy, and you don't have to identify with any of it. Just let it wash over you, and you keep moving forward without attachment. Detachment is a wonderful thing to practice. It's really healthy for the psyche, for the soul, for the mind. It's a wonderful thing to practice. You can feel and experience, but you don't have to carry everything. You want to make your heart as light as a feather in the Ma'atian tradition. So watch the stories that you tell yourself, because the longer you tell yourself stories, especially negative stories, even, you know what, this goes for both actually. When you tell yourself, I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I have this experience. I've had it, and it's a part of the human experience. I'm sure I'll experience it again. I'm telling myself a story. I'm repeating a story that I experienced, right? And what I have found, here's the interesting thing about memories that are experienced over and over again. A lot of times when we've experienced something, say something bad, as we keep ruminating on it, going over the same thing over and over again, over time it takes on a different color. It has new layers attached to it. It has new emotions overlaid onto it. All these extra things that weren't necessarily there before. You begin to see it with new eyes. If something happened to you in childhood, you look at it with now an adult mind, and it becomes something else. And so all of a sudden it starts morphing like Power Ranger on a Saturday morning. Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. It starts morphing. And so in that respect, it's not even the same story anymore. So why are we telling it? On the positive end, and I've had this happen, and this is always hilarious. In my case in particular, I have a lot of energy. I'm very high energy. Can be hyper at times. Very intense. And so I've had experiences that, for me, were absolutely astounding, mind-bending, wonderful, beautiful. And the other person, they were like, it was all right. Now, some of that is because as a high energy individual, you do tend to experience things on a more intense level at times. But also, when you might be remembering the thing, you add in all type of glitter, sparkles, toppings, sprinkles on top of it. And so again, what is it all for? Because you might be remembering a really good story, but then you add so much extras onto it unknowingly that now it becomes something completely different than the actual experience that you had. And then if anything in reality comes in connection with that story that you're telling yourself, now in your mind, that beautiful story that you had is ruined. So must we carry a story? I guess that's the human experience. Story is a part of the human experience, but what is the value of the story you're telling yourself? What is it doing for you? What is it giving you? Is it keeping you in victimhood, or is it keeping you rising and striving within yourself for what it is that you desire? Or is it keeping you at peace and contentment? Is it keeping you at all? The story that you're telling yourself. I know somebody who, I remember when I first witnessed this, I was so confused. I didn't know what was happening. They, everybody that they met at this time, and I was with them, basically 24/7 at that time. And everybody that they met, they would talk about how sick they are and how they got this wrong with them, that wrong with them. They would list off like a whole scroll of things, and then they would say, "But I look fabulous, don't I?" I witnessed this thing once, twice, three times. I was like, "What is going on?" I couldn't understand what was happening. And then I said to them, I was like, "What are you gaining from that?" And they were like, "Well," I said, "What are you gaining from that? Everybody you meet, you telling them all your medical information. Why is that a conversation piece for you?" I said, "Why is that a conversation piece for you?" And they were like, "I don't know." And it took me a while to figure out this, because the story that they were telling themselves was helping them to feel significant in their victimhood. You understand? So the more that they talk about everything that's wrong with them, and then they juxtapose it with, "But don't I look fabulous? Don't I look good?" It's like, it gives them instant significance. Like, oh my God, everything's wrong with them. So there's sympathy there, and empathy perhaps as well. And then, but they're really trying hard. And so it was a way for them to crowbar into, the other person's psyche. But is that necessary? Is it really? Be careful the stories you're telling yourself. And see what happens if you tell yourself no story. See what happens if you try to be in the moment and you just say to yourself, "In this moment, I have a choice. What will I do with that choice in this moment?" Not thinking about nothing from before and all of that. And practice absolute presence. Don't identify with the story, with the thing, with the trauma, with the past. Don't identify with it. See what happens. Do it for a week. Let me know what happens. All right. Toodles.